The Pregnant Farewell, The Secret Twins, and The Billionaire's Decade of Regret. Hit like and subscribe now. This is the epic true story of a man who chose millions over family, only to find the cruelest cost was a missing decade and a twin son he never knew existed. Isabella "Izzy" Rossi was pregnant when he delivered the fatal blow. "I've been unfaithful." A year later, he found her in a hospital, holding two twins with his exact same eyes. No, wait. That was just the start. Izzy was pregnant when Cameron Vance said, "I'm choosing the empire over the baby." 10 years later, he found her running a small, struggling bookstore, holding the hand of their daughter, and discovered the true, devastating price of his ambition. A twin son he never even knew had lived and died. Part 1. The Buenos Aires Dream dies in Seattle. "I can't believe you're doing this to me, Cameron. I'm pregnant with your child." Izzy Rossi, tears streaming down her cheeks, stared fixedly at Cameron Vance in the small apartment they shared in Seattle, Washington. Her eyes, usually warm and loving, now reflected a mixture of pain and disbelief. "Izzy, please try to understand," Cameron replied, running his hands through his dark hair in frustration. "This opportunity with the investors is once in a lifetime. ConnectFlow can revolutionize how the West Coast communicates. And our baby? Is that less important than your company?" Izzy placed a hand on her stomach, barely visible under her loose blouse. The apartment, decorated with books and memories from their 3 years together, suddenly seemed too small to contain the enormity of their argument. Outside, Seattle's rhythm rushed on, oblivious to the drama unfolding within their four walls. "It's just temporary, Izzy. A year, maybe 2 in Silicon Valley. I'll build something substantial for us, for our family." "A family isn't something you postpone until it's convenient, Cameron. It's happening now, whether you're ready or not." 6 months ago, everything was different. Izzy taught literature at a community college, while Cameron worked late nights on his tech startup. They dreamed together. She of opening her own bookstore specializing in Latin American literature. He of creating technology that connected people. Their dreams intertwined into plans for a shared future. Until 2 pieces of news changed everything: the positive pregnancy test and the email from Silicon Valley investors, both arriving on the same day. "I'll send you money, plenty of money," Cameron insisted, reaching out to take her hands. "We can make this work long distance." Izzy pulled her hands away as if his touch burned. "I don't want your money. I want a father for my child." "Our child," Cameron corrected, feeling a pang of guilt. "And I will be their father, but I also want to give them a future where they don't have to struggle like us." "Money doesn't raise children, Cameron. Love and presence do." That night, they slept on opposite sides of the bed, an abyss growing between them. In the morning, Cameron had already made his decision. He packed his bags while Izzy was at her doctor's appointment. When she returned, she found a check with an amount she'd never seen, and a note. "I'll return when I've built something worthy of you. I love you, C." At the airport, checking his passport before boarding, Cameron found a folded paper he didn't recognize. Opening it, he saw Izzy's doctor's letterhead and a handwritten note from the doctor. "Congratulations on the twins. Everything looks perfectly normal with both." Twins? The world seemed to stop. 2 babies. His heart hammered with panic. It was hard enough to think about 1 child while chasing his dream. But 2? The loudspeaker announced the final call for his flight. Cameron looked at the paper, then the boarding gate. Then again, the paper. With trembling hands, he crumpled it and shoved it into his pocket. "Passenger Vance, this is the final call for Flight 207 bound for San Francisco." With one last look toward the airport exit, Cameron took his suitcase and moved toward the gate. His decision was made. He would build an empire, then return for his family. He just needed time. Meanwhile, in the apartment they once shared, Izzy looked at the check Cameron had left. With deliberate slowness, she tore it into smaller and smaller pieces. "Don't worry, my love," she whispered to her belly. "We won't need anything from him. We'll make it. I promise you." Part 2. The broken silence and the empty space. Time passes differently when lives diverge. For Cameron Vance, days in Silicon Valley turned into weeks, and weeks into months with dizzying speed. His first year in the US was a whirlwind of meetings, presentations, and sleepless nights. ConnectFlow went from an ambitious idea to an emerging reality. Video calls with Izzy became less and less frequent, until one day she simply stopped answering. "Have you tried calling the landline?" asked Marcus Brooks, his newly hired assistant, finding Cameron staring frustratedly at his phone. "She doesn't answer, and her email bounces," Cameron replied, feeling the gulf between him and his former life deepen. What he didn't know was that Izzy was facing her own battles. Back in Seattle, her pregnancy had become complicated. The twins required special care, and she was alone. "We need to monitor the second baby," the doctor explained with a concerned look. "His development is slower than his sister's." Izzy sold almost all her possessions to pay for medical treatments, refusing to touch the money Cameron had deposited in an account for her. Her wounded pride was stronger than her practical sense. The night of the birth, in a Seattle hospital room, Izzy faced the most painful moment of her life, both physical and emotional. "Push one more time, Ms. Rossi," the obstetrician instructed. The cry of a baby filled the room. "It's a beautiful girl," the doctor announced, placing the newborn on Izzy's chest. "Chloe," Izzy whispered, kissing her daughter's tiny head, but the joy was short-lived. "We need to get the second baby out immediately," the doctor said urgently. "His heart rate is dropping." Hours later, Izzy held Chloe in one arm, while with the other, she stroked the cold cheek of Leo, who hadn't survived beyond his first breaths. "I promise I will always tell her about you," she murmured through tears. "My brave brother." Meanwhile, California, Cameron celebrated his first major round of funding. ConnectFlow had caught the attention of the tech giants. At a party filled with champagne and congratulations, something felt profoundly empty. "To the new tech world star," an investor toasted, raising his glass. Cameron smiled, but his eyes were distant. He pulled out his phone and looked at the last photo he had of Izzy, wondering if the babies had been born yet. Part 3. The Brazilian Refuge and the Forbes cover. By 2016, 3 years after he left, ConnectFlow had expanded across the United States. Cameron moved his headquarters to Miami, Florida, to be closer to Latin America, settling into a penthouse with an ocean view that looked straight out of a magazine. "Mr. Vance, Forbes magazine wants to do a profile on you," Marcus, now his right-hand man, reported. "They're calling you the Latin tech genius." "Schedule the interview," Cameron replied without emotion. "And Marcus? Any news on Izzy?" Marcus shook his head. The discreet search they conducted every month remained fruitless. It was as if Isabella Rossi had vanished. What they didn't know was that Izzy had made a radical decision after Leo's death. Using her last savings, and with 6-month-old Chloe, she had traveled to Fortaleza, Brazil, seeking a new start away from the memories. "Are you sure you want to rent this space?" the real estate agent asked, looking skeptically at the young mother with a baby in her arms. "This area isn't very commercial." "I'm sure," Izzy affirmed. "This will be pages of the heart." The years passed. While Cameron accumulated millions and appeared on the covers of business magazines, Izzy slowly built her bookstore, turning it into a beloved cultural corner in Fortaleza. Chloe grew up among books, learning Portuguese and Spanish, knowing nothing of the man who was her father. "Mom, why don't I have a daddy like the other kids?" Chloe asked one afternoon at 7 years old. Izzy closed the book she was reading. "Everyone has a daddy, my love. Yours is far away, building important things." "More important than me?" Izzy hugged her daughter, Nothing is more important than you. Part 4. The Forgotten Face and the Brule Reckoning. By 2023, Cameron Vance was a changed man. At 38, he was a billionaire, but the dark circles under his eyes spoke of sleepless nights and a depression that not even success could cure. One afternoon, idly browsing the internet, an article caught his attention. The 10 most charming independent bookstores in Brazil, and there, at number 3, was Pages of the Heart in Fortaleza. The photo showed a smiling woman among bookshelves that he immediately recognized. "Izzy," he whispered, touching the screen. Without a second thought, he called Marcus. "Prep the jet. We're going to Brazil tomorrow." "Brazil? Is this for the South American expansion?" "No," Cameron replied, staring intently at the image. "It's personal. I found her, Marcus. After 10 years, I finally found her." Cameron Vance stopped in front of the colorful facade of Pages of the Heart. A sign announced a poetry reading that afternoon. With his heart pounding, he pushed open the glass door. The interior was warm and inviting. Wooden shelves overflowing with books, small tables where readers enjoyed coffee, and the unmistakable aroma of new pages and fresh brew, so unlike his cold Miami apartment. "Welcome, everyone." He heard a voice he would recognize anywhere in the world. "This afternoon, we have the honor of hosting the poet Teresa Andrade." Izzy was more beautiful than ever. Her hair, now shorter, framed a face that had gained character with the years. She was dressed simply but elegantly, with that naturalness he had always admired in her. And then he saw her. In the front row, a girl about 10 years old listened attentively, a notebook on her lap. She had brown hair, like Izzy, but her eyes, those eyes were undoubtedly his. "Can I help you?" An older woman approached Cameron, who had frozen in the middle of the bookstore. I'm looking for Isabella Rossi," he managed to articulate, unable to tear his gaze from the girl. "On whose behalf?" "An old friend," he responded automatically. It was then that Izzy saw him. Their eyes met across the room, and time seemed to stop. He saw her pale and briefly grip the lectern before recovering her composure with stunning dignity. "Please enjoy the reading. I'll be in the new releases section if anyone needs recommendations," Izzy announced in a slightly shaky voice before heading toward Cameron. "What are you doing here?" she whispered when she was close enough, her tone icy, contrasting with the warm atmosphere of the bookstore. "Izzy, don't call me that. You lost that right 10 years ago." Cameron felt the impact of her words like a slap. "I'm sorry, I needed to see you. After a decade? Did you suddenly remember we exist?" "I've always thought about you," he admitted. "I tried to find you for years." "Not hard enough," she countered bitterly. "If you'll excuse me, I have a business to attend to." "Is she?" Cameron asked, nodding toward the girl who was now watching them curiously. Izzy followed his gaze, and her eyes softened slightly. "Yes, that's Chloe, our daughter. She's beautiful," Cameron murmured, feeling a mixture of pride and pain. "She has your features. And your eyes," Izzy conceded. "They always remind me of you." An uncomfortable silence settled between them, charged with unasked questions and silent reproaches. "Can we talk? Privately," Cameron pleaded. Izzy glanced at her watch. "The reading ends in half an hour. Wait in the cafe next door." Part 5. The Twin Truth and the Shattered Soul. The half hour felt eternal. Cameron watched from the cafe window as Izzy interacted with customers, professional and warm. He saw her briefly converse with the girl, his daughter, and discreetly point toward the cafe. When Izzy finally entered, she was accompanied by Chloe. Cameron stood up, more nervous than he had ever been in his life. "Chloe, this is Mr. Vance," Izzy said in a controlled voice, "an old friend from Seattle." "Hello," the girl greeted him with a smile that was the exact reflection of her mother's. "Have you known my mom for a long time?" "A very long time," Cameron confirmed, trying to maintain composure. "Since before you were born." "Did you know my brother too?" Chloe asked innocently. Cameron looked confusedly at Izzy. Your brother? Izzy's face visibly tightened. Chloe, could you go order a hot chocolate from Mrs. Elena? I need to talk to Mr. Vance alone. Once the girl had moved away, Izzy took a deep breath. Leo died shortly after he was born. Respiratory complications. The world seemed to stop for Cameron. Leo? He repeated, his voice choked. He was a boy? Yes, your children were twins, Chloe and Leo. My God, Cameron murmured, feeling breathless. Why didn't you tell me? Izzy's eyes flashed with contained fury. When exactly, Cameron? When did you stop answering my calls? Or when you changed your number? Or perhaps when you blocked me on social media so your new contacts wouldn't discover the pregnant ex-girlfriend you left behind? It wasn't like that, he protested weakly, though he knew she was partly right. I focused so much on building something for you that— Don't try to justify yourself, Izzy interrupted. You didn't build anything for us. You built it for you. Chloe returned at that moment with her chocolate, watching the tension between the adults curiously. Your bookstore is impressive, Cameron commented, trying to lighten the mood. It was always your dream. A dream I built alone, Izzy replied, though her tone had softened slightly. While raising our daughter, I would like to get to know her, Cameron said, looking at Chloe. If you allow me. Izzy was silent for moments that felt eternal. You can come to the bookstore. Supervised visits. I don't want her to know who you are yet. Have you told her about me? I told her father is far away, Izzy replied in a neutral voice, building important things. That night, in the modest apartment he had rented in a hurry, Cameron looked at the photo he had discreetly taken of Chloe, his daughter, the girl he hadn't watched grow up. I'm so sorry, Leo, he whispered to the night. I wasn't there when you needed me, but I promise I will make up for the lost time. For you and your sister. What should Cameron's next move be to start earning Izzy's trust? Offer money for the bookstore, or simply show up every day? Vote in the comments. The Billionaire, the brutal betrayal, and the twin-sized price continues. Hit subscribe and like if you believe a man can truly change his focus from ambition to family. Cameron is about to face the price of a simple life. Part 6. The humility of Fortaleza. Adapting to Miami wasn't easy for Cameron Vance. Accustomed to the luxuries of Miami and having everyone cater to his orders, he now walked the colorful streets like an ordinary man, invisible and unexceptional. And strangely, that anonymity felt refreshing. He rented a simple apartment near the bookstore, rejecting the luxurious options his real estate agent had shown him. I want something normal, he had insisted. Something real. During his first visits to Pages of the Heart, the tension was palpable. Izzy watched him constantly while he tried to connect with Chloe. Do you like adventure stories? He asked his daughter one afternoon, noticing she was reading Treasure Island. I love them, Chloe replied, her eyes lighting up. Especially when they explore unknown places. When I was your age, I dreamed of being an explorer, Cameron confessed. But I ended up exploring computer code instead of jungles. You do stuff with computers? Like hacking systems? She exclaimed, clearly impressed. Cameron laughed. Something like that, but legal. I created a platform to connect people. Izzy, who was arranging books on a nearby shelf, intervened. Chloe, could you help me with the inventory in the children's section? But Mom, I'm talking to Mr. Vance about technology. The inventory, Chloe, now. When the girl moved away, Izzy approached. Don't fill her head with your corporate success stories. I'm just trying to get to know her. Cameron defended himself. Is that so wrong? The wrong thing was disappearing for 10 years, she retorted, lowering her voice. The wrong thing was her growing up wondering why her father didn't want her. The words hit Cameron like a punch. It was never that. No, then what was it? Before he could answer, the bookstore door opened, and a large, wide-smiling older woman entered. Izzy, I brought fresh empanadas, she announced, then noticed Cameron. Oh, a new visitor. Carmela, this is Cameron, an acquaintance from Seattle. Izzy introduced him with obvious discomfort. Mrs. Elena studied him with a piercing gaze. "So you're the famous Cameron. Interesting." "Famous?" he asked, concupiscus. "My cafe walls are thin, and Izzy and I have shared many cups of coffee," Mrs. Elena explained enigmatically. "Pleased to finally meet you." Part 7. The Ally and the Financial Truth. Against all odds, it was Mrs. Elena who became his first ally. One afternoon, while Izzy was attending to a group of students, the woman sat across from him in the cafe. "You hurt her deeply," she stated without preamble. "I know," Cameron admitted. "And what do you plan to do about it?" "I don't know," he confessed. "I want to be part of their lives, but I don't know how." Mrs. Elena took a sip of her coffee before responding. "Then figure it out. But I warn you, if you come here to stir up the past and then leave again, I will hunt you down and make you pay. That woman and that child are my family." Through conversations with Mrs. Elena and observing the bookstore, Cameron slowly learned about the life Izzy had built. He discovered that Pages of the Heart was facing financial difficulties due to competition from large bookstore chains and online shops. "She doesn't know I'm worried," Izzy commented to Mrs. Elena one afternoon, unaware Cameron could hear them. "If sales don't increase, I'll have to close before the end of the year." That night, Cameron called Marcus Brooks in Miami. "I need information on the publishing market in Fortaleza, and I want you to contact these distributors," he instructed, sending him a list. "Also find out who owns the building where Pages of the Heart is located." "Are you thinking of buying a bookstore?" Marcus asked, surprised. "I'm thinking of saving one," Cameron corrected. Part 8. The Festival of Redemption. In the following weeks, Cameron divided his time between getting to know Chloe better and learning about the independent bookstore business. Without revealing himself as the billionaire he was, he timidly offered some suggestions to Izzy. "Have you considered organizing a literary festival?" he suggested, while helping unpack a book delivery. "It could attract tourists and local readers." "Do you think I haven't thought of that?" Izzy replied, though without hostility. "Those things cost money I don't have. Maybe you could get local sponsors." To his surprise, Izzy considered the idea. "That's not a bad suggestion. We could start small." The festival became a joint project. As they planned, the walls between them slowly began to crumble. Chloe, excited by the idea, appointed herself the event's creative director. "Why did you never go back to Seattle?" Cameron asked one night, while reviewing the list of invited authors after closing the bookstore. Izzy put down her pencil and looked directly at him. "After losing Leo, I couldn't stay there. Every corner reminded me of what could have been and wasn't." "I'm so sorry, Izzy. If I had known..." "What? Would you have come back?" Her gaze was intense, challenging. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "I want to think yes, but back then I was blinded by ambition." "At least you're honest," she conceded with a small, sad smile. "And now? What is the great businessman Cameron Vance looking for in a small bookstore in Fortaleza? Redemption, perhaps," he murmured, "or simply getting to know the daughter I never knew I had. And then what? Will you return to your empire in Miami?" The question hung in the air, just as Cameron's cell phone vibrated insistently. It was Marcus. "Boss, there's a crisis with the acquisition. The investors need to talk to you urgently. They need you to come back." Cameron looked at Izzy, who had clearly overheard part of the conversation. "It seems duty calls," she said with resignation. "Some things never change." "This is different," Cameron insisted. "I'll be back tomorrow to continue with the festival plans." "Don't make promises you can't keep," Izzy replied, gathering her things. "We've had enough of those." That night, while contemplating the decision he had to make, Cameron received a text from Mrs. Elena. "There are things money can't buy, including lost time. Choose wisely, young man." For the first time in 10 years, Cameron Vance had absolute clarity about what truly mattered. Part 9. The Festival, the Downpour, and the Non-Financial Rescue. The Pages of the Heart Literary Festival transformed the small bookstore. Local authors, musicians, and artists filled the space with creativity and enthusiasm. Izzy, radiant in a navy blue dress, moved among the guests effortlessly, hosting panels and receiving congratulations. "I can't believe how many people came," she commented to Cameron as they watched the crowd from a corner. "I haven't seen the bookstore this full in years." "It's your vision come to life," he responded with sincere admiration. "I always knew you would achieve it. We wouldn't have been able to afford these authors without the sponsors you secured," she admitted. It was the closest thing to a thank you he had received in weeks. What Izzy didn't know was that most of the local sponsors were actually subsidiary companies of ConnectFlow, directly funded by Cameron. He had used his contacts and resources, but always staying in the background. Chloe bustled among the attendees with a borrowed camera, documenting every moment. "This is the best thing that has ever happened to the bookstore, Mom," she exclaimed excitedly. "I think we sold more books today than all of last month," Izzy commented, checking the register. "Can we do this every 3 months?" Chloe asked, yawning. "We could," Cameron responded without thinking. Izzy gave him an inquisitive look. "You speak as if you're going to stay. For how long, Cameron? Until you get bored of playing Happy Family? Until another irresistible opportunity appears? This time is different. I am different. People don't change that easily." "It wasn't easy," he insisted. "It took losing everything to understand what truly matters." "Losing everything? Please, you're a billionaire. I lost my family. I lost you and our children." The mention of children in the plural made Izzy visibly shudder. With a sigh, she motioned for Chloe to gather her things to leave, but before walking away, she turned to Cameron. "Come by tomorrow at 8. There's something I want to show you." Part 10. The Truth of Leo and the Tropical Storm. The next morning, Cameron arrived punctually at the bookstore. Izzy was waiting for him with 2 cups of coffee. In her hands, she held a worn metal box. "These are Leo's things," she explained, opening it. "The only outfit I bought him, his hospital bracelet. The first and only photo I took of him." Cameron gazed at the image of a tiny baby, connected to tubes and machines. His son. The son he never knew. Tears blurred his vision. "The doctor said his lungs weren't fully developed," Izzy continued, her voice breaking. "He fought for 7 hours. "Did he suffer?" Cameron asked, barely able to articulate the words. "They assured me he didn't. I was with him the whole time, holding him." "And I wasn't there to hold either of you," Cameron murmured. For the first time since their reunion, Izzy didn't respond with reproach. Instead, she gently placed a hand over his. "We can't change the past, Cameron. Only decide what to do with the present." That moment of connection was abruptly interrupted by a crash. The sky over Miami, which had dawned clear, suddenly darkened. An unforecasted tropical storm unleashed its fury. "The second-floor windows!" Izzy exclaimed, running toward the stairs. For the next few hours, they battled the wind and rain seeping in everywhere. Cameron and Mrs. Elena, who had arrived to help, moved books while Izzy tried to seal leaks. "Watch out!" Cameron yelled just as a section of the ceiling collapsed, narrowly missing Izzy. When the storm finally subsided, the damage was devastating. Hundreds of books ruined, shelves destroyed, and worst of all, the walls showed structural damage. "Insurance won't cover half of it," Izzy murmured, watching her dream turn into ruins. That night, in Izzy's small apartment, Chloe slept while the adults assessed the situation. "Maybe it's a sign," Izzy said with resignation. "Maybe it's time to start over somewhere else." "You can't give up now," Cameron protested. "Don't you understand? I don't have the money to rebuild. And even if I did, the building needs major repairs before it's safe again. I can help. I have more than enough money." Izzy shook her head firmly. "I don't want your money. I never have." "Then you'd rather abandon your dream, the place you built for Chloe." "You're not understanding," she responded with frustration. "I don't want to depend on you. I don't want to owe you anything. It's not about debt, Izzy. It's about doing the right thing for our daughter." The mention of our daughter caused a tense silence. Finally, Izzy spoke. "I need time to think. Please, leave. The ultimate choice, money or independence." Comment below. Should Izzy accept Cameron's money to save her dream, or must she maintain her independence at all costs? Part 11. The Power of Community Over Cash. The following days, Cameron did not show up at the bookstore. Izzy and Mrs. Elena tried to salvage what they could, but the task seemed impossible. Chloe, usually cheerful, was unusually quiet. "Where is Cameron?" she asked one afternoon while helping dry books. "I don't know, honey," Izzy replied, surprised her daughter noticed his absence. "I like it when he's here," Chloe confessed. "He looks at me like I'm important." Those simple words caused a surge of emotion in Izzy. It was possible that, despite everything, Cameron could be a positive presence in Chloe's life. Her reflection was interrupted by the sound of trucks stopping outside the bookstore. Stepping out, she was met with a surprising sight. Workers were unloading construction materials, while Cameron, dressed in work clothes, was giving instructions. "What does this mean?" Izzy demanded, confused. "It means we don't give up," he responded simply. "You can't just show up with trucks and materials without consulting me," Izzy protested, pulling Cameron away from the workers. "This is my bookstore." "I know," he replied calmly, "but I was going to lose the contractors if we didn't start today. And before you accuse me of trying to buy you, I'm not paying for this. At least not directly." "What does that mean?" Cameron pointed toward a group of people approaching on foot. Izzy recognized several regular customers, neighboring business owners, and even professors from the local college. "Good morning, Izzy," greeted Mrs. Eleanor, the owner of the corner cafe. "We came to help." "What is this?" Izzy asked, bewildered. "A moutirão," Mrs. Elena explained, appearing from behind the group. "Or, as you call it in Seattle, a community gathering. The neighborhood comes together to help one of its own." Cameron approached again. "I only organized what was already there, Izzy. All these people love you. Pages of the Heart mean something to them." Izzy looked around. Local carpenters offering their labor, neighbors donating materials, college students ready to haul debris. Her eyes welled up with tears. "I don't know what to say," she murmured. "Don't say anything," Cameron suggested. "Just accept the help." Part 12. The Birth of the Leo Vance Foundation. Over the next few weeks, the bookstore was transformed. What started as basic repairs evolved into a complete renovation. Cameron worked tirelessly alongside the volunteers, learning to use tools he had never touched in his executive life. "Your hands don't look like a millionaire's now," Izzy commented one afternoon, pointing to his blisters and scratches. "I think I like them better this way," he replied, accepting the drink. "It feels good to create something tangible for once." When the reconstruction was almost complete, Cameron disappeared again, without explanation, for 3 days. "You were right, Mrs. Elena," Izzy confessed as they locked up the cafe. "People don't change. They always leave in the end." "Don't jump to conclusions," her friend advised. "That man is not the same one who left you 10 years ago. I've seen how he looks at you, how he looks at Chloe." The answer arrived the next morning, when Cameron appeared with deep, dark circles under his eyes, but a triumphant smile. Behind him, Marcus Brooks carried several folders. "Sorry for disappearing," he apologized, "but I needed to finish this." "Who is he?" Izzy asked, looking at the assistant. "Marcus Brooks, my right-hand man," Cameron introduced him. "And now the interim CEO of ConnectFlow." "What? You stepped down from your company?" Izzy couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Not exactly. I still own it, but Marcus will handle the day-to-day operations. He proved he could do it while I was here." Before Izzy could process this, Cameron continued. "And that's not all. Come with me." He led her to the back of the bookstore, where a new section had remained covered with tarps during the renovation. Pulling them back, he revealed a beautiful, bright space with small, colorful shelves, reading pillows, and a mural depicting scenes from classic stories. The Leo Vance reading room, Izzy read on the carved wooden sign above the entrance. Her voice cracked. It's a children's library, Cameron explained softly. And also the headquarters of the Leo Vance Foundation for the Promotion of Literacy. It is legally established, with a trust that will fund reading programs for underprivileged children across Florida and the Southeast. Izzy touched the sign with her fingertips, unable to speak. I can't get back the lost time, Cameron continued. I can't bring Leo back, but I can make sure his name means something beautiful to many children. This is not debt, Izzy. This is purpose. It was then that Chloe appeared, looking at the new room in awe. Who is Leo? Izzy and Cameron exchanged a look. It was time. Leo was your twin brother, Izzy explained, kneeling in front of her daughter. He was born with you, but he couldn't stay with us. Like an angel? Yes, like an angel, Izzy confirmed. And did he know Cameron? Chloe asked, confused. Another exchange of glances. Izzy nodded slightly. Chloe, Cameron began, also kneeling. There's something important I need to tell you. I am your father. The girl's eyes widened. My father? The one who was building important things far away? Yes, he confirmed. But I was terribly wrong. Nothing I built was more important than you and your mom. Part 30. The Wedding and the New Life. That night, the renovated Pages of the Heart opened its doors for a community celebration. Cameron took the microphone. 10 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life, he began, looking directly at Izzy. I chose ambition over love. But this bookstore, this community, this is what truly matters. Izzy taught me what true wealth means. Chloe stepped forward, holding a piece of paper. In a clear voice, she read a poem she had written about family, forgiveness, and second chances. There wasn't a dry eye in the room when she finished. Moved beyond words, Izzy finally opened her heart completely to Cameron. We can't rewrite our beginning, she told him, taking his hands. But perhaps we can write a new chapter together. 1 year later, Pages of the Heart was thriving. The Leo Vance reading room had become the heart of the community. In the back garden, Izzy was radiant in a simple white dress, walking toward a flower arch. Cameron waited, nervous, but certain. The ceremony was simple but deeply emotional. When it came time for the vows, Cameron spoke from the heart. Valentina, it took me a decade to understand that true success was always with you in our family. I promise to dedicate every day of my life to being the man that you and Chloe deserve, and to honor Leo's memory in everything we do. Chloe approached, holding the rings in a small, hollowed-out book. I promise to be the best daughter to both of you, and always take care of the Leo room, so my brother is proud from heaven. Later that night, the new family closed the bookstore together. Ready to go home, Mrs. Vance? Cameron asked, turning off the main lights. Almost, Izzy replied with a mysterious smile. She took his hand and placed it over her belly. I have something to tell you first. I'm 8 weeks. This time, you'll be here for everything. Cameron's eyes widened with shock and emotion. For everything, he promised, embracing her carefully, as if she were the most valuable treasure in the world. As they walked toward their house under the stars, Cameron reflected that his greatest achievement was not the fortune he had built, but the family he almost lost and fought to get back. The living proof that sometimes life's most meaningful stories include second chances. The millionaire who once left his pregnant girlfriend for his career found that true success was never in the numbers of a bank account, but in the pages of a shared story, written with love, forgiveness, and redemption. Final question. The story of Leo's room and the new baby is the ultimate act of redemption. What do you think Izzy and Cameron should name the new baby if it's a boy, in honor of their past and new beginning? Let me know in the comments.